They said I owed them for being born. I was frozen, sitting across from my parents in their living room as they calmly handed me a legal notice. My mom didn't blink. My dad actually smirked. And my sister? She just scrolled through her phone like this whole thing was normal. If this made you gasp, then hit like, subscribe, and share. You don't want to miss what happens next. So there I was. Sophia, the ungrateful daughter who dared to say no. No to paying off a $580,000 mortgage on a house I didn't even live in. No to covering the cost of my sister's lavish lifestyle. The same sister who once told me I was dead weight to the family. They'd planned it like a setup. Sunday lunch, everyone present. My parents, my sister Emily, her husband Brad, even my cousin Jacob, all staring at me with fake smiles. Then Dad stood up and made an announcement like he was hosting a charity gala. We've decided, Sophia. We'll be covering Emily's mortgage from now on. It's time she gives back. I laughed at first, thought it was a joke. But when I looked around the table, nobody was laughing. Just silence. And Emily with her wine glass, nodding like this, was some royal decree. "I'm sorry, what?" I said, my voice trembling. "Why would I—" Mom cut me off. "You make more than enough, Sophia. You don't have a husband or kids. You have no obligations. Your sister's carrying a family. It's the least you can do." That word, obligation, stung. Because for the past 10 years, I'd been working 16-hour shifts, sleeping in my office, skipping birthdays, building a tech startup no one believed in. I didn't take vacations. I didn't ask for help. I was invisible. Until now, when they smelled money. But the worst part? They didn't ask. They decided, like I was a line item on their budget plan. I took a deep breath. "I'm not paying her mortgage." The silence cracked into chaos. "You're selfish. After all we did for you. You owe this family." And Emily? She just muttered, "You always think you're better than everyone." I stood up and walked out. But the next morning, a courier arrived at my apartment. Summons to court. My own parents had sued me for emotional damages and unpaid family debt. They claimed I had a moral obligation to financially support my sister. Their legal argument? That my success came from the values they gave me, so technically, I owed them. I sat there in shock. They weren't just asking for help. They were trying to legally strip me of my right to say no. I called my lawyer. He laughed at first, until he read the attached document. Then he got quiet. "They're serious," he said. "But Sophia, you've been holding back. Maybe it's time. They found out what you really built. I wasn't ready. Not yet. But they were about to find out exactly who they were messing with." The courtroom was packed. My parents sat proudly in the front row, dressed like they were attending a gala, not a lawsuit against their own daughter, Emily, or designer heels I knew she couldn't afford. Probably bought in advance, assuming she'd win. They were confident. After all, I had always been the quiet one. The one who never fought back. The one who smiled and swallowed every insult, every guilt trip, every moment they made me feel like I owed them something for simply existing. But today, I wasn't swallowing anything. Their lawyer began with a dramatic opening. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is a story of family, of betrayal, and of a daughter who forgot where she came from." He actually used the word betrayal, like I was the villain. He argued that I had been morally obligated to provide financial support because my parents had sacrificed everything to raise me, and that my success was built on their values. Then Emily took the stand. Fake tears, shaky voice, a rehearsed performance about how she and Brad were about to lose their home, how they had kids, they didn't, and how I had more than enough, and was just being cruel. I wanted to scream. They didn't know the truth. They didn't know what those years of silence had cost me. what I'd suffered through to get where I was. They didn't know about the 3 failed startups. The night I slept in my car because I couldn't afford rent and payroll at the same time. The panic attacks, the betrayal by my co-founder, the hospital visit when I collapsed from exhaustion. But they were about to find out. When my lawyer stood up, he didn't even look at them. He looked straight at me and nodded. "Ms. Sophia Taylor, would you mind telling the court what you do for a living?" I smiled for the first time. "I own Nexus Grid." Gasps. Even the judge raised an eyebrow. Because Nexus Grid wasn't just a company. It was a $300 million AI infrastructure firm. One that quietly powered backends for major fintech apps, and just 6 months ago, had landed a government contract, and I owned 82% of it. My parents had no idea. They thought I was still coding freelance or running some little startup. My lawyer placed a file on the judge's bench. "Here's documentation of Ms. Taylor's income, assets, and ownership. Stakes. As you can see, she's entirely self-made. No loans, no inheritance, no family assistance." Dead silence. Then he turned to my parents. "What exactly did she owe you again?" My mom's face went pale. Emily looked like she'd seen a ghost. But it wasn't over. Not even close. Because I had one more surprise waiting. And this one would burn everything they built their lie upon. My mom stood up suddenly, her voice cracking through the silence. "She's lying. There's no way she did all that alone. We raised her. We paid for her college." But my lawyer didn't flinch. He calmly turned a page and said, "Actually, Ms. Taylor dropped out after her sophomore year. She paid her own tuition through part-time jobs. Here are the receipts." My dad leaned forward, his voice low but angry. "So what? She still used our roof, our food. We built her foundation." That's when I finally spoke, for the first time since the hearing began. "No, Dad. You built a cage. You spent years telling me I wasn't good enough, that Emily was the smart one, that I should stop dreaming and settle. You didn't raise me. You underestimated me." My voice didn't shake. For the first time in my life, I wasn't scared of them. I looked directly at my sister, her mouth slightly open, like she couldn't believe the words were coming from me. "You remember when I came to you crying after my second startup failed?" I said quietly. "And you told me maybe I wasn't cut out for business? That I should marry someone rich instead?" Emily looked down. She didn't deny it. Because it was true. Everyone in that courtroom could feel the shift. The story had flipped. I wasn't the selfish daughter anymore. I was the one who had quietly fought, suffered, and built an empire behind their backs. And they weren't the victims. They were the villains who tried to take credit for a success they never believed in. But then came the final blow. I turned to the judge and said, "Your Honor, I have no intention of letting them take a dime from me. But I do have a counter lawsuit prepared for defamation, emotional abuse, and attempted financial coercion. And if needed, I have witnesses, audio recordings, and written messages to prove it." You could have heard a pin drop. The judge looked at their lawyer. "Do you still want to proceed with this case?" He paused, looked at my parents, then slowly shook his head. Case dismissed. But I wasn't done yet. As they walked past me outside the courtroom, I whispered just loud enough for Emily to hear. "You almost had my money, but you'll never have my power." She turned back, furious. "You think you're better than us?" I didn't even look at her. "I don't think it," I said. "I proved it." The next morning, our family group chat exploded. My aunt from Florida messaged, "Sophia, is it true? You own Nexus Grid?" Then my cousin dropped a news link, a tech article featuring my photo with the headline, "Meet the billion-dollar mind behind the silent AI revolution." My parents had stayed quiet until now, but suddenly their tone changed. My mom texted, "We just wanted what's best for Emily. Maybe we overreacted. Can we talk?" My dad followed with, "Let's put this behind us. Family is more important than money." Now they cared. Now that the truth was out. Now that the world saw me not as their backup daughter, but as a powerful CEO, richer than their wildest dreams. I didn't reply. Instead, I got into my car, pulled into the driveway of a quiet under-construction property outside the city, the one I'd bought secretly 2 years ago. My assistant was waiting. "Ready to start phase 2? She asked. I nodded. "Open the family foundation." She blinked. "Wait, your family?" I smiled. "No, not them. The families like mine, who were never given a chance. Because I wasn't just done with them. I was building something they could never sue, shame, or steal, something far bigger. And this time, I was just getting started." 2 weeks later, I received an invitation I never expected. My parents were throwing a family celebration dinner in my honor. Gold-trimmed card, formal dress code, hosted at a 5-star country club. Emily even left a voicemail. "It'll mean a lot to Mom and Dad if you come. They just want to apologize. Everyone will be there." I almost laughed. A month ago, they were trying to drag me to court. Now they wanted to parade me like a trophy. Still, I went. But not for them. I walked into the banquet hall in a simple black dress. No designer labels, no flashy jewelry. Just calm confidence. The room went silent. Emily blinked first. "Sophia, you look different." I smiled. I am different. My dad stood up to give a toast. "We're so proud of Sophia and all she's accomplished. She's always been special." I watched him fake his way through every word. He ended with, "It just shows what family support can do." That's when I stood up. I didn't raise a glass. I raised the truth. I built everything you see in spite of this family, not because of it. You tried to break me when I had nothing, and when I had everything, you tried to take it. But I'm not angry anymore, because I finally understand. You were never proud of me. You were just waiting to use me. Gasps echoed around the room. My cousin dropped his fork. Then I turned to the entire family. "For years you all laughed at me, ignored me, mocked me. But now you want to celebrate me because the world is watching. So here's a toast, not to this family, but to every underdog who was counted out, who rose anyway, and who learned that success is the best revenge." I walked out before anyone could speak. No tears, no regrets. That night, my phone lit up. Articles, interviews, podcasts requesting my story. Not about the money, but about how I overcame everything without help. I became more than just wealthy. I became unshakable. And while they sat in their mansion built on manipulation and lies, I soared in silence, building empires they'd never be allowed to step foot in. They sued me to steal my money, but I gave the world something better. My story.